I never thought a single knock on my bedroom door at 2:47 a.m. would change everything. It had been just another long Wednesday, class, campus gym, ramen, repeat. I was halfway through a rewatch of The Haunting of Hill House, volume barely above a whisper, when I heard the soft shuffle of bare feet outside my door. It was so out of character that I paused the episode mid-jump scare. Josh, my roommate, Mr. Sleeps Like a Rock, never wandered the apartment at night. I opened the door to find him standing there, hair a mess, shirtless, sweatpants clinging low on his hips, eyes unfocused and glassy. "Hey," he said, voice rasping. I had this dream. Can't really sleep now." A beat passed. He looked past me like he was unsure whether stepping into my room would pull him further from the nightmare or deeper into it. "Want to sit for a bit?" I asked, moving aside. He nodded, brushing past me, and just like that, my heart betrayed me again, the way it always did when he got too close. We'd been roommates for almost a year now, sophomore dorm pairings that became off-campus cohabitants. Josh was everything I wasn't: loud, athletic, reckless with charm. Girls fell for his laugh, professors forgave his late submissions, and he never seemed to notice how my gaze lingered on him a little longer than necessary. I told myself it was nothing. Just a phase. Just a stupid, hopeless thing. Because he was straight. Straight and my best friend. And you don't ruin things like that. Especially when you're the guy who grew up learning how to keep feelings folded tight in his chest. But he sat on the edge of my bed now, rubbing his palms together like he was still waking up from whatever chased him in his sleep. The streetlight outside cast a soft glow on his face, highlighting the furrow in his brow and the tension in his jaw. "You okay?" I asked gently, sitting across from him at my desk, trying not to look too long. "Yeah," he murmured. "Just this weird dream. Woke up sweating. My chest was tight, and I didn't want to be alone." The words hit harder than I expected. He looked up, eyes finally meeting mine. "Is it okay if I just crash in here tonight?" I hesitated. He was hurting. Vulnerable. Just a friend who needed comfort, I told myself. But my heart was already thudding against my ribs. "Yeah," I said, forcing a calm I didn't feel. "Of course." As he slid under the covers on the other side of my bed, I stared at the ceiling, knowing something unspoken had shifted in the air between us. I just didn't know what it meant yet. Josh moved in with me the summer after freshman year, right when our dorm leases ended and everyone was scrambling for housing. I had already signed a lease on a small 2-bedroom apartment just off campus. Quiet, old building, a view of the city skyline if you tilted your head out the kitchen window just right. He showed up on move-in day with 2 duffel bags, 3 skateboards, and a wide grin like he just won something. I guess, in a way, we both had. We weren't close in our first semester, just nods in the hallway and a group project that barely survived his procrastination. But he was magnetic, impossible to ignore. And when we bumped into each other at a party one night, both a little tipsy, both weirdly open to something new, we found ourselves deep in a conversation about horror movies and childhood fears and how hard it was to feel understood. By the time the lease was signed, we were watching movies on the same couch and ordering food we couldn't afford just to see each other's over-the-top reactions to spicy wings. He made me laugh without trying. I made him playlists. Somehow, that was enough. Our bond grew in the small, unspoken ways that matter, the way he tossed his hoodie at me when I looked cold, or how I'd order his coffee the way he liked it without asking. He wasn't perfect. He left dishes in the sink and always forgot to text back, but he had a softness in him, buried deep under the jokes and the cocky grin, that only came out when no one else was looking. And sometimes I got to see it. Like tonight, when he curled under my covers without hesitation, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You remember that time you locked us out on the balcony for 2 hours?" he whispered into the dark. I chuckled. "You were the one who dared me to go out there barefoot in December. Still your fault. You fell for it." I rolled my eyes, even though he couldn't see. "You climbed down the fire escape in socks and tore a hole in your jeans. You're lucky I didn't." We both laughed softly, the kind of quiet, breathy laughter meant not to wake the world. Then silence stretched, comfortable but charged. Next weekend, we were supposed to go camping with a few friends, a last-minute plan Josh had convinced me into. Just us, the woods, and a borrowed tent. We tested it last week, right in our living room, trying to figure out which poles went where, until we collapsed onto the floor in fits of laughter when it caved in on us. He playfully shoved me, and when I shoved him back, he didn't move, he just looked at me for a second too long, eyes crinkling like he saw something in me I hadn't dared to show. And now I couldn't stop thinking about that moment. The way he stared. The way I froze. "Hey," he murmured suddenly. "You packed the sleeping bags for next week, right?" "Yeah. Yours is still in the closet." "Cool. Just hope it doesn't get too cold." I swallowed. "It might. I heard the temperature drops fast out there at night." Another pause. Then, "We can always double up if it gets bad." I let out a soft, nervous laugh. "Sure. Unless you have another nightmare and claim the whole thing for yourself." "Can't make any promises," he said, and I could hear the smirk in his voice. My chest tightened. I didn't know if he meant it the way it sounded. I didn't know if I was reading too much into things. But lately, these little comments, these looks, these lingering silences, were starting to pile up. And the part of me that had always kept hope tightly leashed was beginning to tug at it. Just a little. Josh turned over, tugging the blanket higher. "You're warm," he mumbled. I blinked up at the ceiling, heart thudding quietly in my ears. "Yeah," I whispered. "So are you." By the time we got to the campsite, it was already getting dark. Josh had underestimated the hike. "Easy trail," he'd said. "We'll be there in an hour, tops." Nearly 3 hours later, we were sweating, breathless, and standing in a clearing surrounded by pine trees, our clothes sticking to our skin. The sky was slipping from blue to violet, and the air had a sudden bite to it that made me shiver. "Okay, not exactly an easy trail," Josh admitted, dropping his backpack with a groan. "No kidding," I muttered, rubbing my sore shoulders. He grinned, wiping his forehead with the hem of his shirt. I looked away too fast, too obvious, and pretended to busy myself with unpacking the tent. Every time he lifted his shirt like that, a whole mess of feelings I tried to keep buried came clawing back up. We set up the tent in the last light of day, fumbling with poles and pegs until it stood upright, lopsided but holding. Josh gave it a proud slap. "Told you I could do it." "You barely helped," I said, smirking. "I supervised." But my smile faltered as I glanced at the sleeping bags. I froze. There was only one. "Where's the other one?" I asked. Josh looked around. "Crap. I must have grabbed the wrong bag. You forgot one?" "I thought you packed yours." "No, I said I packed yours because mine has a busted zipper." He winced. "Well, we can share, right?" My mouth went dry. "It's a single sleeping bag." "Yeah, but it's like wide." "We'll be fine." I stared at him. His expression was so casual, like this didn't mean anything. Like crawling into a confined space with your half-naked roommate was just a normal part of camping. Maybe to him it was. But to me? To me, it was emotional suicide. Still I nodded. Because what else could I say? "Yeah. Fine." That night the fire crackled between us as we sat on logs, eating slightly burnt marshmallows and talking about nothing. Josh told stories from high school, mostly stupid stuff with his friends, trying to outrun security at a music festival, cliff jumping into a freezing lake. I laughed more than I should have. And then the wind picked up. The fire dimmed. The air got colder. We climbed into the tent, both shivering from the sudden chill. I slipped into the sleeping bag first, scooting to one side to give him room. He crawled in after me, the bag tight, his body warm against mine, our legs brushing. I stiffened. "Sorry," he mumbled. "Didn't realize it'd be this snug." "It's okay," I said, barely above a whisper. We lay there in the dark, our breaths fogging in the cold space between us. Every shift of his body sent sparks through me. His thigh pressed into mine. His arm brushed against my chest. I couldn't move without touching him. I stared up at the ceiling of the tent, feeling everything and nothing all at once. My heart was pounding like a drum in my ears. Every nerve ending was alert, as if my body knew what my brain refused to accept. I wanted to be closer. And I hated myself for it. "Are you cold?" he asked suddenly. "A little." Josh shifted, pulling the edge of the sleeping bag up over our shoulders. "Here." His hand brushed against my side. He didn't move it right away. His fingers lingered, pressing lightly into my shirt. I held my breath. "It's kind of nice," he said softly. "Being out here. Just us." My chest tightened. I turned slightly to face him, only to find his face already inches from mine. The shadows played over his features, soft, unguarded. "Yeah," I whispered. "It is." Our eyes locked. The silence between us thickened. My thoughts screamed with possibilities. This was the moment. If I said something, anything, would it break everything or bring us closer? Did he feel it too, this invisible current pulling at us, this quiet gravity? He didn't look away. "Hey," he said quietly, voice dipping low. "Remember that night I had that dream? When I came to your room?" My breath caught. "Yeah." He hesitated. "I didn't tell you the whole truth." I swallowed. "What do you mean?" He was quiet for a beat. Then, "I did have a nightmare, but I could have gone back to bed. I just didn't want to." I blinked. "Why?" His eyes searched mine in the dark. "I felt better being near you. I didn't think about it too hard, but I think I've been doing that a lot lately." "Doing what?" "Finding reasons to be around you." I froze. Was this real? Was he saying what I thought he was saying? "I don't know what it means," he added quickly. "I just know when I'm with you, I feel different. Calmer. Like I can actually breathe." I couldn't respond. My throat had closed up. My heart was trying to beat out of my chest. Josh exhaled, nervous. "I probably sound crazy." "No," I said, voice shaking. "You don't." The sleeping bag felt tighter now, the air heavier. "I've wanted to tell you for a while," he whispered. "But I didn't know if it'd mess everything up." "You haven't," I said, almost without thinking. "You haven't messed anything up." He stared at me, eyes vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. And I realized I wasn't the only one who'd been holding something back. We lay there, inches apart, the night stretching endlessly around us. Neither of us moved. Neither of us said the thing we were both circling. Not yet. But something between us had cracked open. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what might come next. I didn't sleep much that night. Josh did, eventually, his breathing slow and steady, his body warm against mine, one arm accidentally flung across my waist. I didn't dare move. I lay still, staring up at the fabric ceiling of the tent, my thoughts whirling like wine through the trees. "Finding reasons to be around you." He'd said it so quietly, like he wasn't sure if he was admitting something or still testing the words on his tongue. I replayed it in my head again and again, clinging to the fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one drowning in these feelings. Morning came with pale light filtering through the canvas and the soft rustle of wind in the trees. I could smell pine and damp earth and somehow, his skin, faintly sun-warmed and familiar. He stirred beside me and murmured, "What time is it?" "Early," I whispered. Still quiet. He didn't move his arm. In fact, he shifted a little closer, his face nuzzling into the crook of my neck like he didn't quite know where he was yet. His breath tickled against my skin. My chest constricted. I had to say something. I couldn't keep dancing around this. Not after last night. Not after that look in his eyes. "Josh," I said softly. I didn't sleep." He blinked slowly, pulling back just enough to see my face. "Why not?" Because I've been trying not to think about what you said. He frowned slightly, the grogginess fading from his features. About last night? I nodded. You said being around me makes you feel different. Like you can breathe. He sat up, propping himself on one elbow. His hair was a mess and his eyes still held the weight of sleep, but his face was unreadable now. Guarded. I meant it, he said. I just don't know what that means yet. I pushed myself up too, drawing my knees to my chest. I couldn't look at him. You don't have to know exactly. I don't either. Silence stretched between us. I could hear the leaves rustling, a bird somewhere high in the trees, the faint creak of the tent fabric in the breeze. I've felt this way for a while, I said, voice barely above a whisper. It started small. Like noticing how you always lean toward me when we talk. Or how your laugh makes my chest feel too tight. And then, you moved in. And I couldn't stop looking for you in everything. Josh's breath caught. I felt it. I forced myself to look at him. I tried to ignore it. Thought it was just me. But then you'd say something, or touch my shoulder, or just look at me a certain way and I couldn't pretend anymore. He was still staring at me, eyes wide and raw, like he wasn't sure if he should be running or leaning in. I don't want to mess up what we have, I continued, my voice shaking. But I can't keep acting like you're just my roommate. I can't keep lying to myself every time you fall asleep next to me, and I wish. I stopped, swallowing hard. I wish I could hold you and not feel like it's wrong. Josh sat completely still. I expected him to pull away. To tell me he didn't feel the same. That he'd been confused, or lonely, or that he didn't mean to lead me on. But then he did the last thing I expected. He reached for my hand. His fingers slid over mine, slow and uncertain, but deliberate. And when I looked at him again, his expression had cracked wide open, no more armor, no more confusion. Just him. I've been trying to make sense of this for weeks, he said quietly. Maybe longer. He exhaled shakily. At first I thought it was just comfort, you know. We get along, you get me, I trust you more than I've trusted anyone. But then I started noticing things too. Like how I always sleep better in your bed than mine. How I get weirdly jealous when you go out with other people. How your voice calms me down when nothing else can. My heart stuttered. I didn't want to screw things up either, he admitted. But last night, when we were laying here, and you looked at me like that, like I mattered, I couldn't stop thinking about what it'd be like if I let myself want this. I blinked, stunned. Do you? He gave a shaky laugh, more breath than sound. I'm scared. But yeah, I think I do. My breath hitched. Josh shifted closer, his knee brushing against mine. I've never felt this way about a guy before, he said, voice low, honest. It's not something I planned, but it's real. And it's you. For a moment neither of us moved. I could feel the weight of it between us, the tension, the hope, the sheer possibility. Then he leaned in. Not all at once. Slowly, giving me time to stop him if I wanted. But I didn't. God, I didn't. Our foreheads touched first. Then our noses. And then, finally, his lips brushed mine. Tentative. Searching. My eyes fluttered shut. I kissed him back. It wasn't fireworks or music swelling. It was something quieter. Something more sacred. His hand found the back of my neck, drawing me in, anchoring me. I felt his breath catch, felt the tremble in his fingers as they slid along my jaw. When we finally pulled apart, we didn't say anything at first. We just looked at each other. Really looked. Josh was flushed, lips parted, eyes full of something I'd never seen on his face before, something soft and scared and willing. You okay? I asked, voice barely audible. He nodded slowly. Yeah. I am now. And I believed him. Because for the first time since this whole thing started, neither of us was pretending anymore. For a while, we just sat in the silence of the morning, wrapped in the warmth of our shared breath and the echo of our kiss. Neither of us said much right away. We didn't need to. Josh's head rested lightly against my shoulder, his fingers still tangled with mine. It felt effortless. Like we'd finally stepped into a version of us that had been waiting to exist. "You're quiet," I said, my voice low, breaking the stillness like a pebble dropped in a still lake. Josh hummed. "I'm just trying to figure out how the hell I'm supposed to go back to pretending we're just roommates after that." I smiled, glancing sideways. "Spoiler, you're not." He laughed, and something about the way it cracked open his whole face, easy and unguarded, made my heart ache a little. "This is so weird," he said. "Not in a bad way. Just surreal." "Yeah." I leaned back on my elbows, letting the cool fabric of the sleeping bag brush my skin. "But weirdly, right?" Josh nodded, pulling one knee up and resting his chin on it. "I've never kissed a guy before." "You did pretty well." He snorted, then turned to me with a crooked grin. "You think so? I mean, you might need more practice. Just to be sure." His grin widened. "Guess we'll have to schedule a few sessions." There it was, that teasing, familiar spark between us, but now it had this undercurrent of something unspoken finally given voice. Something weightier. I reached for his hand again, fingers finding his like it was second nature. "Are you scared?" I asked, more gently this time. He was quiet for a beat too long. "Yeah. A little. Mostly about what this means. For me. I don't want to lose who we are." "You're not losing anything," I said. "You're just expanding it. Letting it be real." He looked down at our joined hands. "And you? You've been feeling this longer than me. Does it scare you?" "Every day," I admitted. "But it scares me more to think about not trying. Not knowing what we could be." He leaned his head against mine again. "I don't want to keep this a secret. Not really. But I also don't know how to explain it to people who've only ever seen me one way." I nodded. "You don't have to rush anything. We can figure it out as we go." Josh gave a soft laugh. "You always say the exact thing I need to hear. It's infuriating. I'll add that to my list of superpowers." "Oh? What else is on the list?" I tilted my head, pretending to think. "Making perfect pancakes. Noticing when you're lying about being fine. And apparently, kissing straight boys into questioning their entire identity." Josh swatted me lightly with a pillow. "You're insufferable. You like it." He didn't deny it. There was a lightness in the air now, a weight lifted between us. We moved around each other differently, softer, more attuned. When we packed up the tent later, our arms brushed more than necessary. When I handed him his water bottle, our fingers lingered a moment longer than before. It wasn't a fairy tale. We still had to go back to the real world, back to our shared apartment and unspoken questions. But something had shifted. Later, as we sat in the car, muddy, tired, and quiet, Josh reached over and rested his hand on my thigh, his thumb drawing idle circles. "So, what now?" he asked. I glanced at him, heart skipping. "We take it slow. We talk. We figure it out. Together." He smiled, soft and full of promise. "I'd like that." And as we drove down the winding road back to the city, I realized I didn't care how long it took or how many awkward conversations we had to have. Because Josh was looking at me like he finally saw what I'd always hoped he would. And he wasn't looking away. It was raining when we got home. Not a storm, just a soft, steady drizzle, the kind that made the city feel hushed and new. Josh parked the car, cut the engine, and for a second, neither of us moved. The windshield wipers ticked once more before falling silent. I turned to him. His hoodie was loose around his shoulders, his damp hair curling slightly at the ends. He looked at me like he was still piecing everything together, but not afraid of what he'd find. "You ready?" I asked. Josh's eyes flicked toward the apartment building, then back to me. "Honestly? No idea. But if you're walking in, I'm walking in too." That made me smile. We got out of the car, and the rain immediately kissed my skin, cool and refreshing. He jogged ahead to get under the awning but stopped when he realized I was walking slow on purpose, face upturned to the sky. "What are you doing?" he asked, laughing. "Just breathing," I said. "Feels like the air's different." He stared at me for a second, then stepped back out into the rain beside me. "Let's walk it slow, then," he murmured. So we did, up the steps, soaked and grinning like idiots, until we stood outside our front door. Josh fished out the key, hesitated, and glanced at me. "You sure about this? Are you?" His fingers found mine again. Not by accident this time. Not in a moment of confusion or impulse. But with quiet certainty. "Yeah," he said. "It's you. I'm sure." The door opened, and with it came the familiar scent of home. Our place. Mismatched furniture, leftover pizza boxes, that stupid lava lamp I refused to throw out. Everything was exactly the same, and yet not. Josh kicked off his shoes and glanced around. "So, does anything change now?" I closed the door behind us and stepped closer. "Some things do. But not the important stuff." He smirked. "Like my right to control the Spotify playlist?" I shook my head. "That expired the moment you played Nickelback on loop." He laughed, loud and real, and I couldn't he. This time, there was no hesitation. Just warmth and understanding, like something had finally clicked into place. When we pulled apart, he whispered, "This feels dangerous in the best way." "It is," I said. "But we're in it together." Josh walked into the living room, then suddenly ducked behind the couch. I raised an eyebrow. He reemerged with a worn old hoodie, my hoodie. The one he always borrowed, and claimed was just more comfortable than his. He held it up. "Can I keep this officially now?" I grinned. "That's your grand romantic gesture?" He shrugged, slipping it over his head. "Symbolic. Commitment hoodie." I walked over, tugged the oversized hood over both our heads, and rested my forehead against his. "I'm holding you to that." Later that night, we curled up on the couch, legs tangled, a movie playing in the background neither of us was really watching. The rain tapped against the windows like a soft lullaby, and the city buzzed faintly beyond the glass. Josh turned to me, half asleep already, and murmured, "You think we'll be okay?" I brushed my thumb across his knuckles. "We'll mess up. We'll get scared. But yeah, I think we will." His smile was small but honest. He rested his head against my chest, right where my heartbeat was strongest. And in that quiet moment, I realized something simple and undeniable. This wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning. Of slow mornings and late night laughter. Of figuring it out and holding on anyway. Of love messy, imperfect, but ours. I held him tighter and whispered, "We've got time." Josh didn't answer. But his hand found mine again, fingers locking into place like they'd always belonged there. And outside, the rain kept falling, soft and steady, like it knew we were just getting started.